We've all had those moments where you say something, the words come right out, and you wish you could just pull them back, but it's too late, the words went out, and you can never recover them. We have those moments. This week's parsha, we have the biggest emotional trauma, the sin of the golden calf. What's the scenario? Moses says, I'll be back in 40 days. Wait for me down at the bottom of the mountain. He goes, and they're looking at their clock. When Moses says 40 days, he means it. He doesn't show up. He disappears. Moses isn't here. Pandemonium is going to break out. And sure enough, it led to the sad events of the building of the golden calf, the worship of the golden calf, and then Moses had to come down, as we know, and break the 10 Commandments. What is a lesson for us? I'll tell you what the Talmud tells us. That really, how can we imagine people in that generation who experienced the miracles of the sea, the splitting of the sea, the miracles of the receiving of the Torah, and now they're worshiping a golden calf? It took them 40 days to worship a golden calf? How do we appreciate that? The Talmud tells us that really they weren't worthy of that sin. They did it. They were responsible for it. But the Talmud tells us, you know why they did it? To teach us that no matter how low you go, there's always the ability to come back up. And that's why even when those words kind of slip out, you may not be able to pull them back, but you can always move on. There's a concept in Judaism, is Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kom. 7 times a righteous person may fall. But you know what happens? He gets himself back up. He pulls himself out of it. And that's what happens in this week's parsha. We find that as bad as they were, as heinous a crime as it was, but God said, I've forgiven you. Move on. I heard a very cute proverb just this morning. It's that when you fall, that's by accident. But to remain on the floor is a choice. In other words, yeah, you fall. Sometimes you fall. But who said you have to remain down? Pick up your bootstraps and get going. And I think it's a really optimistic message that we find in this week's parsha. That being that no matter where you are and how far you've fallen, remember, you can always pull yourself back up. The words may never float back into your mouth, but you can create other words, other positive energy, other opportunities will come your way to rectify a wrong you may have done to a loved one, and ultimately to get back in your spiritual GPS. Have a wonderful Shabbos.